Hello everyone. This week I was actually planning to do something like the story of Endwin Son or the story of the pre-patch, but the pre-patch didn't really offer enough story to talk about, and my week has been all over the place. The weather has been absolutely fantastic, but it's been so hot that I hardly got any sleep, and I also got my new PC in, which, as you might imagine, it takes a little while to get used to and to get all the programs up and running. Now with that in mind, I didn't want to skip out on the Monday video, so today we're going to talk a little bit about the extra lore that they've released to prepare us for Legion. I'm talking about these beautiful free comics on the WoW website. I'm going to give a little bit of extra background to them, and I'm just going to talk about the lore in general. Nice and easy this week. I hope you'll enjoy it all the same. Now be warned, we are going to talk about things related to Legion, so spoilers ahead. If you don't want any spoilers, then let me just say thank you very much for watching so far, and please turn off the video right now. For those that are sticking around, let's begin, shall we? The first comic to talk about is called Mech Fault Lines. Moira has been asked to go down into Old Ironforge and talk to the crystallized body of her father called Mech Bronzebeard. She herself does not believe it would change anything. The relationship between Mech and Moira, it's not been the greatest, but a ruler must keep up appearances. Once upon a time, Mech Bronzebeard ruled the dwarves and Ironforge. His daughter Moira, she was kidnapped by the Dark Iron Dwarves, led by Emperor Dagran Fauruzan. Instead of treating her as any regular prison, Dagran actually showed Moira respect that her father never gave her, simply for being born a woman instead of a man. With time, Moira actually fell in love with Dagran. She married him, and he eventually became pregnant. Mech was not aware of this. He was convinced that the Dark Irons had used some kind of spell or magic on his daughter, so he sent adventurers out to get his daughter back. Within Blackrock Depths, these so-called heroes murdered Moira's husband and father to her child. She refused to come home, and Mech hoped that someday his daughter would return to Ironforge. The king of Ironforge tried to change his ways by accepting more women into his elite guards, but the rift between father and daughter would carry on. Now just before the Cataclysm, as Deathwing shook the world to its core, earthquakes and all of that took place, Mech, he used an ancient Titan ritual to communicate with the land, to figure out what the hell was going on. Within me is the earth itself. We are one. I am of it, and it of me. I listen for the mountain's reply. Mech's eyes flew open. They were wide with wonder, and his mouth curved into a soft smile. I can hear. He lifted his hands to his temples. The voices are in me head, lots of them. He chuckled softly, his expression one of stunned joy and triumph. It's not just one voice, it's dozens, maybe hundreds, all the voices of the earth. Now instead of communicating with the land, Mech literally became one with the land as his body turned into a crystal. Nobody knew if the king was dead or alive, but it did open up the opportunity for Moira to return home and claim her rightful place as ruler of Ironforge. As you might imagine, this didn't sit too well with the other clans, nor did it sit right with Varian Rin, since Moira also decided to kidnap his son. Together with the SI-7, Varian infiltrated the city. He pulled Moira out of her bed, and he nearly made her pay the ultimate price. Nearly, since his son Endwin had a cooler head and explained to his father that although Moira's methods were definitely wrong, she did have a rightful claim to the throne. In the end, Varian decided to give Moira another chance to be better, like he had to be better, and the dwarves decided to make a council of 3 hammers, in which all 3 dwarven clans, Bronzebeard, Wildhammer and Dark Iron, they were all represented by a leader. In the meantime, Mech's fate was still uncertain. We knew from Thrall's short story that his spirit was still out there, since Thrall uses his shamanistic powers to become one with the land, and they described it as followed. Beneath the eastern kingdoms, a presence stirred in the mountains of Khaz'garoth. The spirit there was strong, but it was not an elemental. It was, strangely like Thrall, a mortal who had transcended the bounds of flesh. The unknown being patrolled the ancient earth of the region, as if it was keeping a silent vigil over the land. It spoke in a dwarven accent that echoed across Azeroth. For behold, we are Irvin of the land, and its soul is ours. Its pain is ours. Its heartbeat is ours. That was again around the time of the Cataclysm, and the Council of 3 Hammers became stronger during Mist of Pandaria, as Moira and the Dark Iron Dwarfs, they proved their worth in the Blood in the Snow scenario.
The Bronzebeards and Wildhammers will regret not having been here to share in your glory.
Better they're grateful for the clansmen spared death on this miserable hillock. We sought to protect and impress, not to shame.
Now with Legion, 4 years after Mech turned into a crystal, we come back to the comic where the king under the mountain finally wakes up from his long slumber. The council is worried that Magni's return will mean some major changes for Ironforge. The Bronzebeards, they will kneel for their king, but the Wildhammer and the Dark Iron Dwarfs, they will definitely not. Moira is more than willing to fight for what they worked so hard for to achieve, but not to worry, Magni has not returned to sit on his throne. He woke up because she told him to, and when he did, he woke up no longer as a king, but as a servant to something greater. The female spirit of the Titan within Azeroth. It has shown him that the Legion is coming. The dwarves, the Alliance, the whole world must prepare for it. And even now, Magni can feel her terror rumbling from the deep places. So he sets off on his journey. But before he does, he asks Moira to see him off. Throughout the years, through the stones, he has seen his daughter grow up as a leader, and she made him proud. He knows that he failed her as a father, and he will never forgive himself for it. He's not asking her to forgive him either. Yet if even stone can come to life, if 3 rival clans can live under one roof, then maybe they can be a family again. He asks Moira to think it over, and as tears fill her eyes, Magni Bronzebeard sets off on his journey. Now I personally hoped to see a bit more drama with the return of Magni Bronzebeard, but this, was also kinda cute. This is where the comic ends, but from the Legion beta we can already tell that Magni definitely has his part to play. He goes into Ulduar and he informs Khadgar and Bran Bronzebeard about the Pillars of Creation. The Titan Spirit herself has informed him about them. Combining the pillars will give us the power to seal the Legion's gateway to Azeroth. It's the only way to save her. So after being informed, Khadgar goes back to Karazhan to read Medivh's chronicles, and eventually we'll find out in what areas we might find the pillars. That's the major storyline, driving you through the Broken Isles. And for those who are like, what about this Titan Spirit, what that's all about, this is new information that they've given us with the Chronicles. In short, Titan Spirits, they live in planets, and the Titans, they went about trying to wake up these spirits. They found out about Azeroth, yet Azeroth was already infected by the old gods. They didn't give up hope though. They brought order to the planet, they installed machines to help shape the spirits, and they left the planet to do its thing. I'll link a video with more details in the description, and now we know that the Titan Spirit, it still has enough power to communicate. She chose Magni as a conduit, and she's helping out those living on a planet by telling them how to defeat the Legion. Only time will tell where the story with Magni and this Titan Spirit is going to go, but let's move on to the second comic. The second comic is called Knightborn, Twilight of Suramar. This tale explains a choice forced upon Grand Magistrix Elisande. Gul'dan and the Legion, they're knocking on Suramar's door. A magical shield surrounds the city empowered by their Nightwell. It's keeping them safe for the moment, but they're uncertain if it will hold, and Gul'dan offers them a deal. Lower the shield, let him and the Legion in, and they will be welcomed as honored allies. Refuse, and they will take the city by force. It's quite an impossible choice to make, and Elisande tells her advisors that she will need time to think. The Knightborn are a new race introduced with the Legion expansion, and their history is that around the time of the War of the Ancients, around 10,000 years ago, the Legion also tried to conquer Azeroth. With the use of the powers from their Nightwell, they were able to raise a shield around their city, and they protected themselves from the outside world. Under the influence of the well, over the years, these Highborn evolved into the Knightborn, yet they also became dependent on their source of magic. This story is very similar to what happened with the High Elves and their Sunwell. When they were cut off from their source of power, these Knightborn will devolve into something that they call a Nightfallen. In that state, they'll have to search for sources of magic to feed their addiction, and if they fail, they'll devolve even further into something they call a Withered. This is a fate worse than death, a fate that hangs above those that are not willing to wait for Elisande to make her decision. Telisra remembers the days of the War of the Ancients. She remembers why they raised the shield, and she refused to accept their leader, allying them with the Legion. Vandros believes that they should actually lower the barrier, that they don't stand a chance against the might of the demons, but Melandris, he seems to go along with Telisra. Days pass, and Elisande finally makes her choice. She has always placed the need of her people above her own desires, and she decides that the only way to move forward is to let Gul'dan in. A rebellion, led by Telisra, tries to bring down Elisande. They try to stop this from ever happening, but Melandris betrays her. He stabs her in the back, and the Legion marches in. Gul'dan will have his power. The Knightborn will join the Burning Legion, yet not all are willing to go along with these choices. Telisra actually survives this attack, and she will be the quest giver leading you into the Suramar zone.
I am Telisra of the Shal'dorei, the Knightborn, first Arcanist in the court of Suramar. My people have made a dire pact, one that spells doom for this world. Time is short. If you have found this message, you are capable of finding me as well.
There, we'll find allies amongst the Knightborn, the Nightfall, and even the Withered are going to team up with us. And together, we'll do our best to bring down Elisande, stop Gul'dan, and stop the Legion's invasion. While reading this comic, I was wondering if there was a special reason as to why Gul'dan wanted the Powder of the Nightwell, and perhaps I missed something, perhaps you know the answer, but I'd imagine that by this time, they already opened a rift for the Legion to invade Azeroth, right? Since they already have these demonic forces, so it doesn't seem like he needs the well for that purpose. Perhaps he needed it to keep the rift open, or perhaps he knew about the Eye of aman'thul and the power of the well were just a bonus. The Eye of aman'thul is one of the pillars of creation, and from the Dungeon Journal we find out that the Orcish warlock, he's trying to summon his master into the world with the use of this pillar. Naturally, we can't let that happen. We lead our rebellion against him, and perhaps we'll be able to convince Elisande that now there's a different path available. She did not join the Legion because she wanted to. She joined them because she saw no other way, and she believed that this was the best path for their people. Now with us partying on the Broken Isles, now there is another way available, and perhaps she'll decide to join us. Also, for those who are wondering how come that there's a city with Knightborn there living for 10,000 years, weren't the Broken Isles raised by our Gul'dan? That's been retconned, and now Gul'dan just raised the Tomb of Sargeras, while the other parts of the Broken Isles, they've been around since the Sundering. The third comic that we're going to talk about is called High Mountain, A Mountain Divided. This comic pretty much sets up the story for the High Mountain Zone, something that was originally part of the questing on the beta, but then it was cut out for some reason and it now shows up in comic form. We see the tribes of High Mountain come together. We have Skyhorn, Rivermane, Blood Totem, High Mountain, and even the leader of the Drogbar called Darkgruul is present. Myla, daughter of the chieftain of the High Mountain tribe, she's seen the counterattack of the Horde and the Alliance. She has seen them fail on the Broken Shores, and Spirit Walker Ebonhorn, he's received a vision from the spirits. For the longest time, they were charged with the duty of keeping the hammer of khaz'garoth safe. This hammer is one of the pillars of creation, similar to the Eye of aman'thul, and in ancient times past, the hammer was used by Huon High Mountain to drive the Black Dragon aspect Deathwing out of their lands. Now they're discussing what to do with the Legion breathing down on them, and Ebonhorn tells them that his visions have shown him champions, not from High Mountain, picking up the hammer, empowering them against the Legion, and all the people of an undivided High Mountain shall aid them. And the Burning Legion shall fall. Now Darkgruul, he's also gone into Neltharion's lair. He's also seen his own visions, but all he saw was the strength to drive back the Legion and nothing of outsiders. He believes that he should be the one to wield the hammer, so he jumps up and grabs it, starting a fight, starting a war with the other clans. But with this powerful Titan artifact, none can stand against him, and Myla's father is murdered. Darkgruul makes his escape, and Myla, despite her grief, she realizes that they have to reclaim the artifact, have to unite against this threat, but the leaders of the other clans are scared. High Mountain becomes divided, and without the hammer, there can be no unity. The Burning Legion is coming, and only an undivided High Mountain can stop them. If the hammer is truly what brings them together, then Myla will do everything in her power to get it back. That's where the comic ends, and like I said, it pretty much sets up the story for the zone. Naturally, we are the champions of the vision. We will do our very best to reunite High Mountain. We're going to try and reclaim the artifacts out of the hands of Darkgruul, and we're going to fight back against the Legion. There's not much more I can say about this comic, perhaps about Huon High Mountain. He's actually mentioned in the War of the Ancients trilogy, in which he allied himself with the Knight of Resistance, with the Urvan, Furbolgs, Wild Gods. You had Ronin, Cressus, Broxigar, Illidan, Malfurion, and Tyrande. All of them, they stood against the Legion, and they won the War of the Ancients. Huon's legacy became so great that the entire region was named after him, and during your questing experience, you'll be told more details about him, you'll see more about his heroic deeds. Which brings us to the final comic released so far, and probably the most interesting one as well. Endwin, Son of the Wolf. This story is told within a flashback, and the flashback begins at present day after the events of the Broken Shore, where the Alliance and Horde get their asses kicked, and High King Varian Wrynn is dead. Endwin rules in his place. He's forced to send more troops to die in the battle against the Legion, as one of his soldiers come in with fantastic news. The war is already over. For him that is, as the soldier turns out to be a dreadlord in disguise. Not to worry though, Endwin is no longer the little boy that constantly needed saving, as he uses the light to fight back. He captured the demon, and he tells the guard to go and make sure that he was working alone. Endwin wants to have a little chat with the demon. What did the Legion hope to achieve? Surely they realize that the Alliance will not fall because one leader dies, or even two of them. You're right, the Dreadlord tells him. It already has. The wolf is dead, and the Alliance will soon join him. The Legion sees all, and they have seen that Endwin is nothing like his father. He was never a warrior, never as skilled as his father was. Instead, he hit the books, a fool who dreamed of peace in a world that would never see it, a world of Warcraft. His very presence made the wolf weak. Endwin befriended his foes like Bane Bloodhoof, and he stood in his way as Varian tried to deliver justice to Moira after she took over Ironforge. During Mr. Pandaria, Endwin felt firsthand what it meant to try and accomplish peace with warriors like Garrosh. He nearly paid the ultimate price for his foolish ambitions, and if even the wolf fell before the might of the Legion, what chance does Endwin have? This Dreadlord pretty much says my opinion about Endwin's character as well. The prince that we knew was a weak-hearted fool, unwilling to see what the world around him truly was, and yet there is potential for his character. Endwin might have changed the wolf, have changed his father, but his father also changed him. The demon offers him what he always wanted: peace, the noblest aspiration.
But to preserve it, you must be willing to fight.
The wolf might be gone, but his son, the light, is what remains, as Endwin calls upon the light and he smites the Dreadlord with a hammer. The story then shoots back to somewhere in the future, many, many years later. We are ready, father. There's only one more battle to fight. Win or lose, it ends today. High King Rin, it is time. We will never have a better opportunity to strike, nor will we ever have another chance. This is the only chance we need. For my father, for the countless others who have fallen, the light will triumph over the shadow this day. Let it begin. We see Old Man Endwin in what appears to be the Exodar, together with Prophet Velen. They are preparing themselves for one final battle, yet their enemy is not described. This is not the first time that we see a hint of such a story take place. We also had a vision in Velen's short story, which pretty much describes the same thing. And as soon as Endwin came into view, the world changed. Instead of the prince, an armored warrior stood before him, his plate helm and breastplate shining with the essence of the light itself. The warrior wielded a sword forged from the same material as the armor, held it aloft as he perched on an outcropping. Whether it was on another world or Azeroth, Velen couldn't quite tell. And suddenly, the dark sky above erupted with the combined chivalry of Azeroth's races. The Blood Elves, Orcs, Trolls, Tauren, and even the accursed undead and scheming goblins rode flying mounts of every sort and description. They were armored and armed in magical weaponry, glowing with so much power it hurt Velen's eyes to look at them. Beside the Legion of the Horde, the ancient Night Elves charged with humans, dwarves, and gnomes, whose ancestors formed the original alliance, and their shape-changing Worgen were united with them. Velen's own Draenei bolstered the army, their ranks adorned in otherworldly metals and bearing crystalline maces and swords. The Alliance and Horde were not alone. Dragons swooped in sworded formations that made the sky resemble a giant multicolored reptilian wing. They blanketed the horizon with their physical size and numbers, and when they roared a challenge, it shook not just the earth Velen stood on, but the universe as well. And yet, for all this, the greatest shock to Velen's senses came as he saw those that flew just beyond the army of dragons. The Naru had taken the field, so many that Velen didn't understand how creation could contain them. The power of these beings of light filled Velen's heart with hope, swept away the lonely centuries, and left him in wonder that he could ever despair, that the dark, no matter how terrible, could ever truly reign. And then a shadow fell. It was vast and empty, and swallowed all light that entered it. Velen knew it would be all-consuming, until at last it would turn and devour itself, endlessly gnawing on nothing in the great dark beyond, removing all meaning from the universe, from the most heartbreaking sonata to the most arresting sunset. It was too terrible to see, to comprehend, and yet the army headed straight for it, and the light began to fade. The difference between this and the comic is that Valen's vision was just that, a vision which may or may not come true. The comic, it seems to describe it as a certainty. Many years later, we'll see Old Man Endwin getting ready to fight the final battle. Also note that they call him High King, a similar role as his father fulfilled, and now the question is, what are they fighting and where are they fighting? I think it's safe to assume that the area shown is the Exodar, the ship that the Draenei crash landed with on Azeroth, their current capital city, which has been fixed for quite some time and is capable of traveling. Are they getting ready to fight the final battle against Sargeras and the Legion? Or are they going against the darkness, the shadow, the newly formed Void Lords? I personally say that this darkness, this final battle, would be against the Void Lords, since they're kinda telling a story that, yes, the Legion is definitely a threat, but keep in mind, there is even a bigger threat waiting out there. Endwin leading the Army of Light against it, it could definitely make sense, but like I said, it's just my interpretation. Someone on Twitter also mentioned that this gives them some heavy plot armor, as in, we now know that Endwin and Valen, they're not going to die anytime soon, and they have a big enough army to keep on fighting. Now I have to agree, it's a bit of a shame that Endwin's fate is pretty much certain, but we don't know the road that's going to lead up to this point. It's very unlikely, of course, but for all we know, Endwin and Valen have to make an escape from Azeroth because we lose the war, and they're the only ones actually left alive to keep on fighting. I think it would be freaking hilarious to have the two biggest peacekeepers left standing in the end, but only time will tell how the story's going to go. For all I know, they have a freaking armada of the Exodars and Tempest Keep and multiple vessels. For all we know, the entire army is waiting out of their spaceship. We don't know, and I can't wait to find out. I'm very excited to see where they're going to take Endwin and Legion. This comic definitely shows the potential of his character, right? He took his father's words to heart. He's still a man of peace at his core, but he's also more than ready to fight for it. Who knows, perhaps when all is said and done, the Alliance can be proud of their new High King. Who knows? For now, we've reached the end of the video, so thank you very much for watching, everyone. I'm going to quickly take a shower, because I am sweating like a madman in this very hot pit. Now, if you want to check out the comic for yourself, I'll place the links in the description down below, and you can check them out in your own time. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys, see ya!